Now in this video I'll be giving my reasons why I think the Phosphorus MG4 is the best PvE secondary SMG, and why I think it is a decent SMG in PvP. And at the end of this video you guys can decide if you want to use it or not. So let's start this video by talking about the PvE side of this weapon first, and then later in the video we can talk about the PvP side of the weapon. Okay, for our PvE, what makes this weapon so good and the best choice for you to use for a secondary SMG is the perk Phase Mag, which increases the impact of the weapon and the range, but decreases the RPM to 600, which if you didn't know is the best RPM you can have for an SMG. This is because the slower fire rate and the increased impact makes it a lot easier to get consistent headshots on enemies, so you are going to find that you'll be killing quicker, and because of this SMG has higher range than other SMGs, you'll be able to get kills further away. But the range doesn't really matter because, you know, it's PvE. It's very easy to get close up to enemies all the time, and so the range isn't the most important aspect of a gun. It's just really helps out if you do. Now, I know a couple of people that don't like using 600 round SMGs. Well, if you don't like that, you could put on the perk Steady Rounds or Alloyed Mag, which resets the Phosphorus MG4 back to its basic stats of a 900 RPM SMG, which is really cool because that means this gun is basically two guns in one. So you can choose what weapon you want to play with whenever you want. It's really like that idea of a perk where it literally changes the type of weapon it can be, which is a really cool idea, Bungie. Now, another thing that makes this gun the best secondary SMG for PvE is the perk Dramatic Sway Reduction, which when holding down the trigger, this weapon's sway reduction systems boost accuracy over time, which is a really good perk in general for SMGs, because the longer you hold down the trigger, the more accurate your weapon's going to get, and you'll be holding down that trigger a lot. Now, that stuff is just in theory. Now, what about in practice? Well, the 600 RPM is really good, as we all thought. It just melts through enemies medium range to closer ranges. It feels amazing to use. It's just all around a pretty good gun, but you know, it isn't amazing. It isn't overpowered. It's just really good compared to the Adjudicator and the antiope-D. Nowhere near as good. I'd say, yeah, no, actually that was wrong. It is really good. And it's pretty close. Now, even though the 600 RPM is superior to 900 RPM, I still find it really fun to use the 600 RPM, especially on Titan, because when you use the 600 RPM, you really have to use the movement system in the game, because you have to use it to get close to enemies, and I don't know, just flying around the place, spinning around corners, just gunning down enemies. I just find it a lot more fun than using the 600 RPM. I'm not saying the 600 RPM isn't amazing. It's just that I just prefer if I wanted to use 600 RPM for movement, I would rather use the antiope-D, because that weapon is a lot more better. Now, if you're a keen-eyed Destiny 2 player, you would have known that there is one more secondary SMG that you can get that has the same archetype as the Phosphorus MG, and that is the Out of Options. Now, these guns are pretty similar. They both have the Phase Mag perk, which is, as we mentioned before, decreases the RPM to 600, from 900 to 600. But that's all the Out of Options has in the Phosphorus MG4, because nearly every other perk and stats on the Out of Options is terrible compared to the Phosphorus MG. The handling, stability, and reload speed are so much worse compared to the Phosphorus MG. And the last perk of the gun is Pulse Monitor, which is a terrible perk compared to the Dramatic Sway Reduction for SMGs. And just overall, the Out of Options is nowhere near as good compared to the Phosphorus MG4. Okay, now that we've talked about the PvE side of this weapon, let's talk about the PvP side of the Phosphorus MG4. Honestly, there are better weapons to use, like the antiope-D or the Adjudicator. And if you want to learn about these weapons, I have a link to a video where I did about the antiope-D and a video where Kackis did on the Adjudicator. But shameless plugins aside, the Phosphorus MG4 isn't amazing. It isn't overpowered. It's just a really good secondary SMG that you would want to use if you wanted to equip a Mitre or a Nameless Midnight as any kind of long range scout rifle or pulse rifle, but you still wanted to have a more closer to medium range 600 round RPM, 600 round per minute SMG. That's all it is. It isn't the next Mitre or Prosecutor. It isn't going to be overpowered. You won't be seeing it all over the place unless this video somehow gets huge, like 1 million views, and everyone uses it, which is never going to happen, honestly. yeah, it's never gonna happen. But let's move on. Because this is weapon view, I have to get some negatives, and the only one I see is that the Phosphorus doesn't have enough range as compared to the Adjudicator or antiope-D. But that can be easily fixed by using a Scarab rifle like the Mighty Multi-Tool, and only bringing out the Phosphorus when some enemies in closer range to medium ranges. And actually, that would be a really good build. Yeah, try that out because that's probably the best thing to do. Bring out like a Martyr, just for those long range encounters, and then bring out your Phosphorus after, when something gets closer. And that's one of the scenarios where you would use the Phosphorus MG4 is when you're using the Martyr, because it's a really good weapon to use. Instead of using the mini multi-tool, instead of using that, you can use this, because I think this is probably more superior to the mini multi-tool in Crucible. Because it can do it in longer ranges, and also if you are not a user, you can go up against more closer range enemies. Saying if someone's using the mini tool against you in a closer range, you could probably take him out if you know what you're doing. Like if you dodge them, go around, jump around the area, do stuff like that. So yeah, it's just a good weapon to use with the Mighty Multi-Tool. Now, another problem with the Phosphorus is that it's pretty inconsistent, as I've gotten kills from really far away, so in a range as well I shouldn't be actually getting kills with SMG, but I was able to, and then sometimes I'll be have trouble hitting enemies medium ranges, so I don't know, it's just sometimes it's inconsistent, sometimes it isn't, I'm not sure. Now, those are only a couple negatives, but if those negatives make you not want to use this weapon, trust me, this weapon is really good. If you know how to use it and you get use the movement system and you just fly around people, having a hard target, get to medium close ranges, you can melt people with this weapon. You can literally, if you get into the right position, it basically becomes antiope-D. As we said before, that is the best 600 rounds submachine gun, and so you just need to know how to use it. You just need to have some practice. Trust me, when I first started, if you use this and you don't you think it's terrible to use it, just continue using it, because when I first started using it, I thought it was terrible. I did not enjoy it. At the very start of Destiny 2, I got this from the gunsmith, and I started using it, and I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all. But then I started using it again after the antiope-D. Apparently it was a really good gun, when I used it, and then I was like, okay, I'll give this a gun another chance, because 600 RPM SMG is apparently amazing, so I'll just use them and test it out. And it was amazing. I got so many kills with it, and it's just really good. And I just use it. Now, before I end the video, I just gotta say thank you to the 4 people that liked my video about why the antiope-D. So yeah, I'm just gonna go now. I don't know how to end videos, so bye.